No, it's just construction. Yeah, that's all. No, I'm not driving.
Are you okay?
Yeah, you?
I'm good.
Oh, no, not you. Listen, I'm gonna have to call my agent. I'm gonna get
Burton?
right back to you.
Mr. Burton, this is Insure Corp. We've received sensor data that indicates you were in an accident. Are you injured in any way?
I'm not injured, no.
Is anyone else injured?
I don't believe so.
Okay, where's my agent's number?
We have pinpointed your location, and we are showing your car is not drivable. So we are dispatching an Uber car to take you to your destination.
That would be great.
I'm pressing 1. English. E-N-G-L-I, English.
May we give your coordinates to our appraiser drone to perform the appraisal?
Absolutely.
We have received the photos, assessed the damage, authorized the repair, selected a qualified repair facility, and have dispatched a tow truck to take your vehicle to that facility.
Perfect.
Yes, hi, this is... Yes. I'll hold.
We have looked up the other vehicle's insurance, transmitted the appropriate data to create the claim, and filed the California SR1 accident report. Can you confirm the information is correct on your phone, then hit the accept button?
I'll check it right now. Okay, all done.
Thank you. Your Uber car is arriving now.
I see it coming.
Accident, not payment. Accident.
Your tow truck should be there now. Don't forget to leave your keys in the vehicle. Thank you for using Insure Corp, powered by Pivotal Labs.
So I show that partly to give you a bit of light relief because you've been sitting listening to people all day, and partly because I want to change your perception about what Dell Technologies is, because having met a few people upstairs, I've had Dell makes PCs, we do. Dell acquired EMC, so you make storage, we do. But Pivotal Labs is part of our business as well, and Pivotal Cloud Foundry is part of our business. And actually, we're also helping most of the companies in the world start to develop cloud-native apps like exactly the one you just saw then, which is obviously modeled for purposes on insurance companies. But my point is, everything you just saw is possible today. The only thing that's not possible today depends on regulations around drones, which we're also working with in most countries in the world. So other than that, what you just saw as an insurance company application for its customers is deliverable today by an organization like mine. Okay? That is digital transformation. Now I want to take this time just to educate you on Dell Technologies. We're 18 months post the acquisition or merger of 7 companies. Those 7 companies are up on the screen. So the traditional Dell business, Dell EMC, I'll show you how they all fit in a minute. Pivotal, which is our cloud-native application development business. RSA and SecureWorks, which are our security and cybersecurity businesses. VirtuStream, which is our cloud business. And VMware, which most of you will know. And our company today is about digital transformation. I know that's a buzzword, so I'm going to show you what that means for us. But it's also around the core IT transformation, how we move your workforce into the digital world, and obviously security as it wraps around all of that. Startup companies, you've seen some of this already. Digital disruptors, the startup companies of the world. There's a few ones we're working in the finance space with. Lots of you today will be using Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, whatever your devices are. These companies have challenged the traditional finance companies to move in terms of their application environment. Same thing with the big retailers, same thing in education, because I know we've got some educationalists in the room. Same thing in healthcare with the Fitbit generation. Same thing in energy with companies like Nest and Hive, which many of you will be using. Same in transport with an Uber, etc. Same in manufacturing with what's going on in manufacturing and supply chain with these startup companies. Pretty much everything and every one of your businesses, including those of you in public sector, is being challenged by these digital startups. What are they? They're software companies. Let's not make any mistake. As you look at all those digital startups, they are software companies. Most of them don't have physical assets. Most of them are a data center with some great software in them. Our business is clearly working with those digital startups to provide them platforms and code development experience, but we're also working with the biggest companies in the world to make sure they can also digitally disrupt their business and bring some of these new customer experiences. I heard somebody earlier say products and services, revenue generation, using technology to traditional businesses. And you're like, that's weird, right? Somebody from Dell is standing here talking about this. So I want to show you how this family of companies fits together. The business agenda is now the IT agenda. Obviously, it's all around IT as a competitive advantage. It's all around providing IT to generate new revenue streams. So this can be about taking out costs, but increasingly it's around new revenue streams, new products, new services. And software DNA is critical. So I've talked to a few companies this morning about making sure you've actually got some software DNA in your business, because otherwise it's very hard to live in the world that's coming. And obviously we have things. Now you will think of it as Internet of Things, Internet of Everything. I might think about it as mobile phones, physical devices, tablets, but I increasingly think about those things as being buildings, cars, things in your supply chain, white goods, you name it. The incremental cost of adding intelligence to all things in the world. I can see Intel sitting in the room, so the incremental cost of putting intelligence into devices is getting lower and lower, and all those things are spitting out data. Lots of data. Not necessarily information yet, but data. And actually, we see our job as helping companies write code, write new applications, harvest that data, write it in a microservices way, in a modular, so that you can keep changing it, you can keep harvesting it, so that you really start to get business benefit out of that data. So that's what our business is about. Clearly, we make things. Clearly, we store and protect data, but we're also increasingly helping people write that agile code to connect those two things up and develop new products and services for your companies. That is our pivotal, and why I played the video right at the start, that is our pivotal business. You might have heard the term Pivotal Cloud Foundry, but this is how we teach people to write agile code, post that agile code either into a cloud environment, public cloud environment, or a private cloud environment, and make that code mobile, useful, agile, and keep updating it in a microservices sense. By the way, as another part of digital transformation, for the last 2 or 3 years, maybe 5 years, we've all been on the journey of everything to the cloud. I'll make this comment based on global experience of what's happening in this industry. Yes, a lot of things make sense to send to the cloud, but you'll also have heard the term fog or edge computing. And as you start to embrace the Internet of Everything within your businesses, you are going to need more edge computing. And my perfect example of that is, if you're sitting in a driverless vehicle and a deer runs out in front of you, you don't want to wait for some remote latent cloud to make the decision. You actually would like the car to make the decision. Edge computing. If you've got IoT on a building and the building gets broken into and there's somebody penetrating at that point in time, you don't want a cloud to make that decision. You want the building to make the decision and close itself down. So I would think about IT in the future as both cloud and edge and everything in between, because the world we're going into will require edge computing, fog computing, cloud computing and core classic data center for our normal applications. Clearly, Dell Technologies does all of that. Machine intelligence obviously goes to the edge. So you want those, that's where your machine-to-machine learning is, on the edge of the computing. And then deep learning and analytics will typically sit in a cloud environment, either a private cloud or a public cloud. And this is an iterative model, by the way. This is a develop those applications and code. It's an analyze what comes off them. It's a redevelop them. It's a redevelop them. It's a redevelop them world. And actually, we think the speed at which you go around that cycle now is where the competitive advantage is for most businesses. The speed at which you go around that cycle is where the competitive advantage is for most businesses in a digital world. Now, that's all I'm going to say about digital transformation, but just think about my company as somebody that can help you with digital transformation, that ability to write and populate code really fast and develop the kind of apps you just saw with Insurance Core. Now let me talk about, whilst we know software and applications are absolutely critical, they're the competitive advantage for all of you, and we're very focused on that. Ultimately, those applications need to sit on infrastructure. They don't run in the ether. And our business also makes infrastructure. And that infrastructure today can be traditional infrastructure built on a classic server, storage, networking, virtualization stack, or it can be a converged infrastructure. And when we talk about modernizing data centers, both to run those traditional applications, but also these new cloud native applications, we're really looking, let me just do, hey, classic applications, right? So that everyone knows that's what you're all running today. That's your keep your lights on function. Software as a service, we all understand. We're all buying, or lots of us will be buying Office 365 or Salesforce.com or Workday or ServiceNow, whatever you're buying as a software service. And then obviously we've got infrastructure as a service and platform as a service in between. I don't need to teach any of you that, but it's context to what I'm going to say next. A modern data center for both traditional applications and new applications, these new cloud native apps, has those 5 components. It's built on flash technology. It has to be built on flash technology from a performance, from an energy, from a resilience, from a space point of view. It has to be scale out because you want to build your infrastructure in chunks. It has to be software defined because you want to manage the infrastructure as an aggregate environment where you can send things between different environments. It has to be cloud enabled because most of us don't live in a single world anymore. We want our applications to be on-premise. We may want them to be in the public cloud. We may want to move them between on-premise and the public cloud and between public clouds and private clouds. And it has to be trusted. The edge of attack, the threat metrics here is getting bigger and bigger as you put more IoT devices out there. Those are the things that a modern infrastructure is built on. And the fastest way, by the way, to that infrastructure, well, one of the fastest ways to that infrastructure is to go and buy infrastructure as a service from one of the cloud providers. That's a quick way to get there. Write your applications in that environment. Done. An alternative way to do it is to buy an infrastructure as a service block that you put inside your own building, so a private cloud. And that's what our block, rack and rail business is about. We are typically building blocks, racks and rails on a VMware environment, but we can build a Microsoft environment, so an Azure stack on-premise, and we also do OpenStack environments. So stacks of infrastructure, think of that as private cloud infrastructure, a really quick way to get to an infrastructure as a service where Dell Technologies takes the heavy lifting away from you around lights on management. We are patching these things as an aggregate. We're making sure the compute, the storage, the network and the virtualization layer are all synced in together so that you don't have to worry about that and you can worry about your data and applications that sit on it. VMware layered over the top, Microsoft layered over the top, OpenStack layered over the top as your business prefers. By the way, if you don't want to do that and you want to build your own infrastructure, Dell EMC, Dell Technologies, best of breed servers, biggest compute provider in the world, biggest storage provider in the world, biggest open networking provider in the world, biggest data protection provider for secondary storage and recovery. So we have those best of breed components for those of you that want to build and manage your own, but we can also build for you and manage for you. Oh, sorry, I'll go back. Automation, we use VMware or Microsoft for automation. What we're really trying to do is to manage that infrastructure for you and to make it easy to go back and forth between your cloud environments. And we also have Pivotal Cloud Foundry, which sits in all of the public clouds or can sit in a private cloud for those new cloud native apps that you've developed in a more agile microservices way so that you can send things straight into a production environment. And that automates at that level. And if you want us to help you design that, we have a massive services infrastructure. If you want us to run it for you, we have our own cloud environment that offers fixed SLAs on any applications. Typically, people would put into VirtuStream an application like SAP or Oracle, which would be more difficult to put into a public cloud. Many applications fit into public cloud environments, and one of the services we offer is looking at your application estate and saying, does it go to public cloud? Does it go to an SLA public cloud? Do we build it in a private cloud? Do we leave it where it is, or do we kill the application in entirety? So here's the world I live in. We obviously have private clouds built on Dell EMC infrastructure with VMware or Microsoft as the automation layer, with Pivotal as the application layer in a private environment. We have consistent infrastructure across private and public clouds. Those public clouds might be Dell EMC cloud providers. They might be VMware cloud providers. They might equally be an IBM cloud, an Azure, an AWS, a Google or a VirtuStream. But what's common about those things is common infrastructure, our infrastructure built into almost all of those platforms, and common and consistent infrastructure operations if you're using VMware. And by the way, if you're using Pivotal, a consistent application platform as well that lets you move those applications seamlessly between your different cloud environments. Changing tack. I've done digital transformation. I've just done IT transformation, the infrastructure side of my business. Now workforce transformation. Your people in a world where all of us are competing with talent, particularly with the millennials, and now with Gen X coming through as well. We are competing for talent, and therefore the productivity devices you give your people are critical to retaining them. Critical to retaining them. I said to somebody earlier, I don't know why you employ someone for £50,000 or £80,000 and then give them a £300 device to work on. It's like a slap in the face telling them you don't value them. 60%, which I find stunning by the way, because I bet this isn't true in this room, 60% of people work outside business hours. It's a bit weird because I think that's much higher, but that's the whole population of the UK. 66% work from home some of the time. I also think that's a weird metric in the IT industry, by the way. 42% of people would quit a job if all of us provide them rubbish technology to work with. You've probably seen that in your world. I see that in my world. And by the way, 82% of kids, when you're hiring them, will tell you that the technology you provide them is critical to their career choice. And so when we're building end user devices, we have all of those things in mind. We do want and know that you're measured on cost. And so we want to make a cost-effective device, a reliable device, a secure device, a device that's really easy for you to manage, either with your classic tools, but increasingly today when people have got mobiles, tablets and laptops and desktops, using AirWatch, which is the VMware product, to manage across those estates, or Workspace ONE if you want to have a mobile and mobile phone and mobile tablet unified experience. But we also know you're measured on experience, the experience of the user. And so we also try and make sure that what we're building is something that's really attractive and people want to carry around from them, want to get out on the plane, want to get out in meetings. It's a device that they're proud to use at home when they take it home with their kids. And so we concentrate a lot nowadays, which isn't true of the traditional Dell business, on making devices that are really sexy and people want to take home with them. And we also concentrate on that whole life cycle. So how do you put the software onto the device? How do you pull down new applications? How do we make those applications and the data on those devices super secure at rest and when the data is in transit? How do we deploy them all over the world? How do we manage them? How do we provide you predictive maintenance on them so we know they're going to fail before they fail? Workforce transformation. Final part of the jigsaw of what Dell Technologies does today, security transformation. There is a map of all the security companies that all of you will be using today. It's a scary map, right? I suspect in all of your environments you'll have 30 or 40 different pieces of security that you're using. It will typically be some kind of endpoint security. It will definitely be perimeter security. And in today's world, that's just not good enough. Almost all of you will have experienced or are currently experiencing some kind of breach into your technology estate, because that threat of attack is just broadening all the time. And so as Dell Technologies thinks about security, it clearly, as an infrastructure company, thinks about it across the infrastructure. So all of the client devices, internet gateways that we make are protected both physically and from an encryption point of view as you acquire them. From a networking point of view, obviously we're working hard now with NSX to microsegment the network so that we can isolate threats once they get inside your perimeter, for those of you that haven't looked at NSX. From a server point of view, we're looking at things like app defense so that we know, again, which applications can talk to other applications and where unusual behavior starts to happen on the infrastructure. From a storage point of view, we have isolated recovery so that if you're hit by ransomware, you have a completely off-network copy of your data and you can basically tell the ransomware attacker to just disappear, reload the complete data stack. So we're looking at security from a physical infrastructure point of view. If you don't know those parts of the Dell Technologies family, I've got cards, reach out to me, I'm upstairs. We're happy to talk to anybody about those pieces of our security. In addition, we have two separate companies. RSA, many of you will be using software from RSA and SecureWorks. The difference between these two companies, RSA helps you build your own SOC. SecureWorks becomes your SOC. Both are legitimate. We actually quite often do both for companies. The benefits of SecureWorks for me is that if someone else is hit somewhere in the world by a threat, we are immediately patching every single estate with that a threat that's under the SecureWorks banner. It is a top right Gartner quadrant offering, and most of the big companies in the world are using that given the level of threat today. So think about Dell Technologies 18 months after the merger of the companies, these 7 brands. think about it in these 4 ways. Can we help you with your digital transformation? And by that I mean the writing of new applications that generate new revenue streams or provide greater experience for your customers, because that is a big business for us. Can we help you with your IT transformation, your core data center, both taking out costs from legacy infrastructure or building new types of infrastructure to run those new digital cloud application platforms? Can we help you with workforce transformation, the building of a great end user estate that makes your workforce super productive? And can we help you with security? Is there anything you're worrying about in your security environment where the properties of our infrastructure or RSA or SecureWorks or any of the threat intelligence work we do could help you, protect you, especially as we go into the GDPR legislation? That's the transformation that we're trying to bring around the world to both startup companies, the public sector, and to large enterprises. This is how it all fits together, just to picturise Dell Technologies today. We know your world is all about applications and data. That's the only thing that matters to your users and your customers, so we're very centred on that. But we know that applications and data, traditionally now, sit in cloud environments. And by cloud, by the way, I don't mean public cloud, I mean a cloud-like architecture that might be on-premise, might be off-premise, might be a combination typically today. Those clouds, by the way, sit on infrastructure. So, contrary to popular opinion, all clouds are built on infrastructure, typically Dell EMC infrastructure, by the way. Users collect to those applications, and everything, the user, the applications, the data, the cloud and the infrastructure have to be secured. This is how my company sits together. Dell provides those end user devices, all the devices you use, plus things like IoT and IoT gateways. Dell EMC builds that core data center infrastructure. VMware helps that infrastructure be virtualized and automated. Virtualized at the server layer, virtualized at the storage layer, virtualized at the networking layer. And by the way, VMware also works in the end user estate with AirWatch and Workspace ONE. Virtustream is our cloud environment. Pivotal is our application development environment, either for core applications or for containerized applications. RSA and SecureWorks are our security brands. We wrap all of those companies, the 7 companies within the Dell Technologies family, we wrap them with Dell EMC services to help design, deploy and manage that estate. And we wrap them with financial services so that those of you who want to buy with CapEx can do so, but those of you who prefer to buy those services in more of a cloud-like utility model, pay per drink, pay per month, pay for utilization, scale up or scale down on your data, we do that through our financial organisation. That is the Dell Technologies family. Lots of you will be dealing with little bits of it, but I wanted to take the opportunity today to present the whole family to you. It is a completely open and non-proprietary environment, so you can take pieces of this and work it with all your other pieces, but we also aim to be better together. Our goal is to help you realise your digital future. The Dell Technologies family. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions. I've got business cards. I'm upstairs, and I know I'm between you and your lunch, so I'm guessing no questions, but I'm happy to take them.
So, are there any questions?
I've got a question for all of you. How many people knew that was the Dell Technologies story 18 months after the merger? All of you? Some of you? Okay. So actually the reason I came today is just to make sure everyone understands what's in that Dell Technologies family today. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Claire.